The new Ninjas in Pajamas team is beginning to impress. They pushed a Game 3 against one of the toughest teams in the DAC European Qualifier, Team Liquid, and have now just utterly demolished Alliance in Game 1. See if they can keep up this performance heading into Game 2 now. As Gods, I don't know, what were your thoughts about that? Because we were saying, okay, that the first 2 or 3 minutes, it seemed kind of good for Alliance. They were countering what NiP was trying to do, but it seemed like some over-aggression and just getting punished constantly for those dives. Alliance just rapidly lost control of the game.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I guess I didn't take into account until it started happening, was losing that first clash meant a lot for the Alliance draft. They had the kind of draft that had to win that first fight and then snowball from there. They don't push towers easily, so when they're forcing a fight by a tower, they really need to win it and win it quite handily so that they can take objectives and really gain map control. The result of losing a fight that Alchemist isn't even partaking in and losing subsequent fights meant that there was no way into a game. When you're versing an Alchemist and he's not fighting, you have to make sure everything that happens up until the point where he's getting involved, you're dominating that stage of the game. And they didn't the laning stage was decent. They were getting more farm, in terms of just the Darkseer was getting more than the Weaver by a big margin. Loda was getting the same as Era on the carries. Mid lane was, Alchemist was getting out CS'd at least for the first 5 minutes, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. None of that really matters once you lose that first fight and then Alchemist suddenly spends 10 minutes free farming the jungle.
We do have to say, though, a large part of it was Synderen's draft and that last pick, Alchemist, something that that sort of trump card is unlikely to be seen again as that fifth pick, but we are going to see a different kind of trump card here. Ninjas in Pajamas, first pick Slardar, per the norm. Feel like I shouldn't even say it anymore, just because I've been repeating that so much. Darkseer Earth Spirit as a combination for Alliance. So they take the Darkseer away from the Slardar and get another one of those nice aggressive duos. But NiP got their hands on the Lone Druid, something that, depending on the team, has been either in that first ban priority or hasn't been seen till the picks around 3-4.
Yeah, so catching it a little bit earlier than maybe expected. So see how that kind of affects things going forward. But I imagine, for Alliance, I feel like they need to, at this point, I really just feel like they need to focus on their drafts more than what their opponents are doing, because it's felt like in a few of, they've been stomped this tournament. They got, I was looking back, we were talking about these teams thinking, both games had been 2-1, but no, Alliance, they played that demoralizing series against Cloud9. They got completely crushed 2-0 in that series as well. I think their problems are much more within their own team than trying to counter their opponents. Yeah, the fifth pick Alchemist, totally agree. That was a big draft win for NiP, but even Alliance never really put themselves in a position to execute their draft. They've had some similar drafts where they were very all-in, have to dominate the early game, have to snowball. Some of their IO tiny drafts are kind of still a bit gimmicky, and I think that's where Alliance need to figure out what they want to do and how they can play a standard game, just a standard draft, and execute it well before they can try anything too gimmicky.
So maybe part of it is not putting themselves in a scenario where they do have that ticking time bomb like the Alchemist, like potentially the Lone Druid. Maybe they try and match that scaling hero and get a little more late game power for themselves so they don't feel so under pressure in that laning phase and early mid game.
It feels like neither Limp nor Loda wants to be that big farming late game carry. You look at most teams and you think, all right, this is the player they're going to play around and who will transition to the late game and quote unquote carry the game. And it feels like Loda wants to play these fighting cores, and Limp similarly wants to also play these flashier heroes and go more for the kills rather than sit back and secure the late game. We saw it on the Tiny, we saw it that game on a more fighting oriented, a Juggernaut mid. So I feel like that's probably one of the biggest downfalls of Alliance's drafting style, is that they're too all in and they never really have a good late game plan, which is, it's funny because the old Alliance would always have the late game secure. They had Bulldog playing the off lane as a carry. They had, Loda was playing that more utility carry, but they still always had a really good late game lineup. But nowadays it feels like Alliance don't ever really secure the late game, and then if they're losing the early game, there's no way they can come back, as we saw last game.
It kind of feels like the opposite of that old problem with EG, right? Where they had two farmers, two carry style players who both needed a lot of space. Here it's the opposite, right? You've got Alliance. They both have aggressive cores. Neither one of these guys wants to sit back and farm and go for the late game. Loda has been notorious for picking up. I think probably the most notable here, whenever I think of Loda carry, is for me not Terrorblade. It's actually the Slardar. because that was something that was so unique to Alliance and to the Loda style carry, where he's the one playing that safe lane hero that comes online really early and starts making space for the rest of the team. That for me was the flavor of Loda for quite some time for Alliance and how he tried to play, and it feels like they still have bit of those problems. We'll see if they can solve it with the draft here. Vengeful Spirit, third pickup here, core support. We'll have to figure that out later, while NiP go for a third pickup of the Dazzle.
Yep. So NiP with this Dazzle have a good way to protect their Lone Druid and have a lot of minus armor, really amping up Lone Druid's DPS potential with the Corrosive Haze as well as the Weave. The Slider, I think Slider is probably one of the best heroes to run with Lone Druid in general, because I mean you've got 1,000+ ranges Lone Druid later on with the Dragonlance and your talents. So you're looking good when you can actually keep vision of those heroes thanks to the Corrosive Haze. And Alliance's response, this is I think one of the heroes that suits Loda better, like this Alliance Loda team better, because it can fight, but it also scales decently well and forces objectives. Like some of the heroes like the Chaos Knight, my biggest issue with them is they don't take objectives unless you've just like team wipe your opponents. A hero like Lifestealer can force a tower and force your opponents to come fight into you by at least like having some push potential.
Yeah, and we did talk about how the Lifestealer seems like a decent matchup against the Lone Druid. If you have a carrier, you can close the distance. You have Rage to ignore Savage Roar, so you could just beat on that hero and try and kick him out real quickly. And it also happens to be a decent hero to beat up the Spirit Bear as well, with that percentage-based damage on a high HP bear. But we'll see, because he doesn't have a carrier just yet. With the support Vengeful Spirit and the offlane Darkseer, really that leaves just the Earth Spirit so far as a clear early game carrier of the Lifestealer. Maybe we'll see some sort of really aggressive mobile mid, though, that will still cover that base.
I'd be against the idea, just because then you're like that single core Lifestealer where, again, you have got an Alliance draft that isn't going to scale well. I'd much rather see them get something a bit more late game oriented, or at least like kind of a hybrid, like an OD type hero. I just feel like, or the Sniper still, I think, is potentially a viable pick for them. There isn't, I mean, the Slider has some gap closing capabilities, but I think the other heroes don't match up amazingly well against the Sniper.
Does the Tiny not scale well enough for you? Because we saw that attempted, right? I feel like one of our series we saw the mid Tiny attempted against the Lone Druid to try and close that distance. Was that the Cloud9 series?
I'm not sure if I know they had the IO Tiny game. That was the game one where they ran IO Tiny, and then I think Ace was playing the safe lane Lone Druid.
Do we feel like that was ineffective?
I think that, I mean, it was ineffective. I don't know if it was like because of, I think the Tiny can work against Lone Druid, but the rest of the draft was kind of a bit lackluster. I think the same thing would happen here with like Tiny plus Lifestealer. I don't feel like they'd scale that well. They get kited really badly by like Venomancer. Slider is actually like in some ways a kiting hero, because he just blinks in, he crushes, then he force-staffs himself out, he amps you up, and suddenly the other team constantly has vision of you. They know how to fight around you. So I think like Slider, Venoa, and Lone Druid, you've got three great kiting heroes to already deal with a Lifestealer. So Tiny late game suffers from the same problems. In the early to mid game, he's fine with a Blink Dagger, but I think you need something more range, more mobile.
Yeah. I was just kind of thinking out loud, because for me, I'm still trying to solve that puzzle of like what heroes are good versus this Lone Druid carry. NiP banned away the Tinker, not banning away the Sniper, which is what I expected, and that's in part because they want to run with this Necrophos, and I guess Tinker would have matched up better there.
Yeah, when you see the Necro pick, it's like, well, that's kind of why they left the Sniper in the pool, since that Tinker could have been a bit of a decent counter for the Necro. You're not too worried about the Ghost Shroud then. And I think Tinker would have actually been a decent pick for Alliance. They don't actually have the best burst damage with their lineup, and it is that mobile carry type mid hero. Even if he's not like a carry that's dealing right-click damage, he just can scale very well into the late game. And it could have been a problematic hero to deal with for NiP, so I don't mind that Tinker ban. But yep, Sniper comes out, gives you a secondary carry with a Lifestealer, and fits pretty nicely against only the Slider as far as gap closers go.
Yeah, it's kind of making me thinking now I want to see a Tinker versus Lone Druid and see how that ends up working, because I'm not sure if we've seen it yet. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, what we actually there's another hero we haven't talked about. The focus too much on LD and his attempted counters. What about this this off lane Veno? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Trixie classic. I love seeing Trixie play Veno. I think it's good this game. I can get some help from the 4-position Slaughter, like a Slaughter Veno lane. That sounds pretty disgusting.
And Hanskin's already positioned to try and counter the Venomancer, because Venomancer, I'll tell you this, gods, 7.0 came out. I experimented real hard with Venomancer, and I lost all of my games, but I did get a lot of farm. It was decent.
Still as good as the old patch as far as the Iron Talon farm goes?
I feel like Dire Jungle is actually the best spot for it. You get to lay up these wards. You stack the hard camp on the 1 minute. You clear this. Then you farm that 2 stack of hard camps. Then you get level 3. You can actually do a bit of Ancients as well. Since you've got level 3, you've got level 2 wards by that point in time. You've got a big stack of them. You can actually start doing some Ancients. You're there for the Bounty Rune. It feels like you farm very quickly in those first 3.5 minutes.
Well, if he's going to win a jungle, he's going to have to head to the main jungle, it looks like, with no Dire Sentries, I believe, to deward with. So they are queued up for the Dazzle. So perhaps they even give Hani a Bounty Rune, be like, Hani, buy those cents for us. As the other rune is not even going to be contested. It looks like 3 Bounty Runes going to be going the way of Alliance. And
they've got the bear.
Sure, of course. So the bear, yeah. So for some reason, I was thinking the bear was Alliance. Like, what am I... It's early,
Don't worry.
I'm not even sure.
I'm feeling you, man. Sniper versus Lone Druid in the mid lane. We are going to have a safe lane farming Ira Necrophos. So potentially an early... I also wonder what Trixie's build is going to be. And if he's going to go for a Blink Ags, or if he's going to get an early mech for the team and leave Necrophos to some of these other stat items. Because that has been... teams like Adfinum, right? They've experimented with the Necrophos safe lane quite a bit, and they like to pick up a mech hero with it, so Necrophos can go for this 4-staff Ags Blink, is I think Madara's build every time.
Yes, yeah, we've seen a bit of, I think, differentiation. Some Necros I've seen like Rush, like Tread's Blink Dagger even. I've seen some Necros prefer the Phase Boots, so there has been quite a decent amount of variation with being such like a new kind of hero as a core again, like, and with the new builds, it does feel like no one's quite sure what like the optimal cookie cutter build is necessarily going to be. But for now, Trixie back to the jungle. He actually had a second sentry to deward those camps, but chose not to, and gave the other sentry to Synderen to deward an observer ward. So they got both Radiant observer wards with their sentries. And Trixie's like, you waste your wards blocking my camps. Guess what? There's other jungles, so he's just going to go into the main jungle.
Yeah, and he's still going to be able to farm 2 camps at once with this big stack. It does mean no one's taking over the off lane right now. Thought Synderen would take it. Yeah, sure enough, Synderen, it does start heading over that way with his boots speed cat problems.
That's a first.
I don't think I've ever seen a Dota pause for that. I wonder, who has the cat? Because Era's the one who says it, but Koifa's the one who paused.
Yeah. Which of the NiP players seem like a cat guy to you? Is Koifa the cat person?
I kind of... Something tells me Koifa is a cat person, but Koifa... just if I was to, on face value, I would think Koifa's a dog guy, you know? Yeah, he's tall, muscular. So. It feels like he wants to go out running with his dog or something. I think Era's a cat. I think it's Era's cat problem.
Okay. I have no idea.
We should have asked. We should have asked in all chat. We should have interrogated them.
Whose cat is it? I'd take Honey for a cat guy, maybe. I mean, he's also tall, big, and muscular. But I don't know. Just having met him and knowing his personality, he seems more like the cat guy. But yeah, don't know so much about Koifa. I haven't had too many conversations with him.
See, I thought it was just between the two, but if you're looking at the other members of NiP, I'll agree with you on Hani, that's for sure. In fact, I've seen it in person. I've seen Hani play with Jacob's cats.
Okay.
So, all right, how's that mid matchup going? 12-6 for Koifa versus the 7-4 on Sniper.
Yep. I mean, this 1v1 should be slightly Lone Druid favored. I mean, Limp can be annoying and harass a bit with the Shrapnel, making it harder to use your hero, but ultimately the Spirit Bear plus Lone Druid advantage does give Koifa a bit of an edge in terms of last hits.
You can see Limp kind of struggling here. Looks like the duo of Yonosampan and Hanskin. They're now fully in lane. Instead of trying to use their jungle, they got their levels where they needed it. They now have that level 2 Ion Shell, so they are quite the threat, especially against the Necrophos, who can't depend on his Ghost Shroud to protect himself when the gank comes.
Now Trixie's back in his jungle, the camps have been unblocked, the sentries have expired, so he's going to get both these camps and then probably shrine up with Synderen. So at this point, like, you've got a potentially level 4 Venomancer after these camps. We could see him even start pressuring the Lifestealer. Other options include like going for a rotation mid if you want to get like a Venomous Gale at level 4. But I think ideally, if he hits level 4 and Quake's level 5, that is kill potential in that mid lane, but the bottom lane Lifestealer farm seems like perhaps the safer approach to take.
See if they go for a rollout again. Hanskin does have the fresh Ion Shell on him. They're positioning themselves, but Hani is ready to go, and he does have the early Shalograve. So even if they did go on Era, it probably wouldn't result in much. Synderen's getting some decent experience out of this off-lane situation that he's in. With his early boots and level 2 sprint now on level 3. He does have quite a mobility advantage over the Lifestealer. Shouldn't go down anytime soon either.
Yeah, feels like NiP getting a little bit more out of the lanes right now. Edge, and mostly from the edge in the mid lane, as well as have the jungler. Whereas Alliance going for the 2-1-2 setup, putting some pressure on top, but it hasn't really slowed down Era's farm. He's still got 28 CS, able to use the Death Pulse to help him farm and also sustain himself in this lane. It does look like he's just going to go for some standard treads, 1 for now, and no big differences in his build just yet. But first rotation seems to be coming in down bottom as Hanskin TP's down with the Earth Spirit.
Synderen not able to get close enough to EGM. Hanskin's going to come in, misses the roll, but they do have the stun follow-up kick and a quick silence. Hanskin and Loda is actually the one to claim the first blood. And again, another late first blood here in our games. 5 minutes in, it's finally claimed.
The full position Slaughter though, and it was a pretty big investment in terms of HP and mana. Like Loda's now in this lane with be low mana, so it means NiP can go back to the lanes and try and put some more pressure on. Loda isn't going to be all too comfortable just sitting down here against the Venomancer, so a small win for Alliance. Not like one of the core heroes. Like, not if it's the Necro or the Lone Druid, you're happy with that, but killing just a Slaughter and having to invest as much as they did, it's only a small victory.
Limp, he just received a small victory of his own. He's got the bear fairly low, but he picked up his phase boots, and I think this is where the lane does start turning a little bit. Not that he's all of a sudden going to be dominating over Qualifier, but he does have a little bit less to fear when it comes to that bear, now that he's got a movement speed advantage over it.
He's actually had a decent amount of 12 denies in that mid lane, so has done a decent job against Qualifier. Hits level 6 before him. So has at least a slight experience edge, and even the farm more or less even at this point. And as you said, the phase boots will make it a lot more even now. Jonas at top needs to be careful. Synderen's looped in from behind him with this ward. He knows exactly what is up here, but does show himself. So Jonas is able to surge himself away, and or even steal a bounty rune on the way out if he wants to.
Snags it up. Synderen, to his dismay.
A mistake there. Showing himself and perhaps revealing the ward as well.
Trixie's done so. Kind of be expected. The Vengeful Spirit Lifestealer, unless you have the high movement speed of the Slardar, you're probably going to get caught eventually by one of these rotations. So, Hanskin.
Loaded back to full HP too.
You okay? Oh no, he's very much okay. Apparently, he's going to roll into Qualifier. Somehow misses that stun. They do have the Assassinate. Is that going to be enough to finish him off? It's so close. They get the damage. Jonas some fun with the Ion Shell on top of Hanskin will claim that kill. Arrow will pick up a Reaper Scythe kill onto one though. Hani goes for the Shallow Grave TP out. Jonas attempts something similar here, and they will both get away scot-free. So they kill the Lone Druid. Yes, it's a Reaper Scythe kill, but it's only on a support.
Yep, and those early Reaper kills now, just 10 seconds added, not too big of a deal for an Earth Spirit. He's not going to be too crippled by that one, and getting that kill on the Lone Druid, on Qualifier too. It's not like you're just killing a safe lane Lone Druid and there's this like mid play you got to worry about. Qualifier is the player that typically with NiP you want to try and shut down, so very nice skill for Alliance, and it is Limp having a really good time in this mid lane now. With the help of that kill, he's in a good position.
Yeah, Alliance do have 3 of the top 4 net worths right now. After that death, Qualifier got shut down quite a bit when it comes to the net worth chart. Trixie Still kind of recovering from his jungle being blocked out by like that. Era gets some distance here. Doesn't have the Reaper Scythe, so he can't really threaten Alliance with a turnaround kill. But they are going to back up either way.
What do you make of Loda going for the Midas this game over like the typical just get the armlet up as early as possible type builds?
I have no idea. I mean, he doesn't have a carrier, which is part of the armlet Desolator threat, right? That early armlet allows you to just destroy heroes in that short rage timer. You get on top of them, you blow them up. Apparently, he feels a little bit more farm-oriented, and maybe because of Trixie's constant pressure. Era's going to go down to top lane, maybe? Oh, no. He tried to go for he did the heal first before the Ghost Shroud. That kind of lessened the heal impact either way. I think the Ion Shell.
Yeah, I was watching that. I was like, that magic one should have healed him more with the Ghost Shroud. But yeah, he must have. He had 17 charges. But yeah, even way, the Ion Shell damage against that Ghost Shroud destroyed him.
Yeah. I think part of it is the fact that, Cinderin trying to still catch up to EGM, who has all that poison damage on him. Loda tries to slow him down with the open wounds. Trixie's going to try and finish off EGM. He's got a little bit more poison. Will end up going down. Hanskin with a whiff there on the roll. Cinderin's actually going to come back in against that Ion Shell. Slows down Hanskin. They've got the wards. Hanskin is just getting kited around and will end up falling as well. The two supports get dropped in bottom lane. And Loda looks like he's going to be forced back as well with low HP and low mana. So despite his Midas and the attempt to be able to stay in lane against this constant presence of Venomancer push, they're going to lose this tower, it looks like.
Yeah, they'll lose. I mean, Loda's not really in fighting shape, not just his HP and mana. The fact you go for this fast Midas means if a concerted push comes your way with the level 8 Veno and the Necrophos rotation now, you're not defending that. But I think that's kind of just something you have to accept as a Midas lifesteal. He is still well on top of the net worth. He's sitting on 5k net worth, and it's going to smoke up, and it looks like they are eyeing off Qualifier in the mid lane, recognizing there's a lot of heroes bottom. Perhaps they feel like this lone druid could be somewhat exposed. Yeah,
and they forced a rotation up to the top lane as well with the pressure of the Darkseer, so they know there's going to be no Venomancer here. The problem is the Earth Spirit's initiation is not quite the same. He's going to try and get the silence onto 2, the pop out there, but they don't have the distance. Koifa is already out.
It's just like juked themselves. That was really weird. Koifa must have somehow gotten into fog around that tree, and Alliance just completely lost vision of him for a second.
Yeah, that's too bad. They really needed a successful rotation like that. Keep that lone druid down. He's middling net worth, but it would have been all the sweeter if they could have kept him down further. Looks like Trixie has picked up a Gloves of Haste, so he may be grabbing a Hand of Midas up next too, and be working towards. Well, actually, who knows? Because Era is not going for the mech build either. He's going for Hand of Midas as well after the Veil of Discord.
Gosh, he's cute. Yeah, the Venom Midas seems like a pretty standard pickup. Nothing too surprising there. But yeah, the Necro Midas, that is not what I expected. I mean, I've seen a hero there in pubs by like in some of the high MMR games and stuff. But I mean, it's more the fact you're getting multiple Midases. Normally, you think Necro more like get early game fighting items, so you can be really tanky, hard to gank, and then like be more of a tempo controlling type hero. But I guess they feel like this game is just going to be more of a long one, and they want it to be able to itemize for the late game.
Yeah, I mean, with Loda showing a Midas of his own, they probably feel a bit of liberty going for later farming items. But that being said, Loda is he picked up the Hand of Midas but he's still closing in on a relatively quick armlet. He is going to be still an active concern for NiP. It's not going to be that much of a passive hero.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think this is going to put a lot of pressure on the Qualifier, who is like, he's playing Lone Druid. He's expecting his team to be able to like create some room for him while he farms and plays more for the late game. But it feels like this double Midas on his 2 other cores is, like in my mind, like if I'm Qualifier, I'm thinking like, geez, are you guys sure about this? Like this is perhaps a bit too greedy, and that just makes it that much harder for Qualifier because everyone on your team's trying to farm. Like that's not how NiP normally play. This feels like NiP doing something a bit different, if anything.
Yeah, Quaif's probably going over the guys. You're supposed to buy me farm time, not the other way around. I'm the lone druid. Come on, I'm supposed to be the one that picks up a Hand of Midas. But NiP are still going to try and get aggressive here with the smoke, Cinderin and Era with the double damage, but they do have a ward in place as Cinderin smokes. It's popped. He does manage to dodge the roll in from Hanskin, but with the slow of Loda, it makes it too hard for him to get out. So Era will just TP back to the bottom lane, and they'll maintain their more passive presence in all lanes, keeping that static NiP laning phase that we've seen so far this game.
And yeah, to be a little bit fair to Trixie and Era, they can easily buy time just by spamming the wards in these lanes. Like Trixie, even though he's got a Midas, is still very much a space-creating core. He's going to force people to come respond when he's pressuring lanes, and he by himself can defend pushes sometimes with Plague Wards. So we'll see that put to the test now up top as rotation is well and truly coming his way.
Trixie does manage to get off the ultimate before he dies here, but it is all 5 of Alliance. They're just going to run over NiP. Do they have Assassinate? It's going to be too late, so that Shellgrave TP is successful. That's pretty good. As you said, you're saying, hey, hand a Midas Venomancer, that's pretty much the norm. And it is able to buy space, and you see it right there. He throws down a bunch of wards, forces a full rotation out from Alliance, and NiP gets some good damage on Tier 1 and Tier 2 at bottom.
Yeah, that's definitely a win for NiP as far as the overall trades go. Even with this top Tier 1 tower potentially going down or at least taking some damage, the space they created bottom for the Necro and the Lone Druid, like that's the Venos' job. Dying there is not a concern at all. And they are going to start TPing up top. Trixie at least to start things off with, but he may be walking into a gank here. And it's getting smoked up, but that Iron Shell should be well known at this point, yeah. Looks like Trixie will scout him out.
He doesn't actually scout out EGM in time, though. He's going to be hit by the stun. Hanskin actually doesn't get the length there to be able to hit him with the Rolling Boulder. Will not be able to slow him, but will be able to get the stun, silence combination, and immediately TP's out as NiP are in full force here, trying to get some sort of counter kill. Cinderin's running along here with his Tranquil Boots and level 3 sprint. You'll find Yoda some fun. They get the swap out. They need a little bit more. Era's here with Reaper Sight somewhere. Looks like he's just going to throw it out on EGM as soon as they get close enough. Claims that kill. Yono-Sampan still being chased down by Koifa. Thanks to the Corrosive Haze, they see everywhere he's going. They'll be able to get that kill as well.
Yeah, I think Koifa's like, well, I'm kind of the carry for the team, but I'm also hitting like your first peak as a Lone Druid, this level 10 attack range plus Dragonlance. This is where you get all of your range, so he's actually in pretty good fighting shape at this point with the 890 range or whatever it is, so he can actually come to some of these fights and right-click people down. With the Slatter Corrosive Haze, he becomes quite a force to be reckoned with, so...
Just 60 range behind the sniper at this point. Dragonlance is going to be the next pickup for Limp, but he went for the farming Maelstrom item first. Gives him a lot more early damage and threatening firepower. Cinderin moving towards the bottom lane. Probably needs to get a little bit of time farming. So Trixie's going to spend more time in jungle, and I think Cinderin is going to try and farm up that Blink Dagger.
Yeah, that I think is probably one of the bigger priorities for NiP at this point. Like when those fights around top, like they got those 2 kills, which is nice, but I think those kills are going to get harder to get until they can get this Blink Dagger on Cinderin. So he'll probably take up some higher priority for the team. They've also got this double Midas, so I think they're kind of at that stage of the game where they're happy to just sit back, farm a bit, try and get some value out of these items. Venom will probably continue to expose himself on the map, even though he's got the Midas, but very much because he's going to be the one defending some of these towers.
Unfortunately, Ward's not all that good at dealing with sniper pushes. He sits outside of the range of the wards and sits outside of the range of the tower. Hanskin tries to roll in, does manage to hit a kick onto Trixie, but they feel like it's too far away. Nice deny, though, by Trixie. He was getting chased away and still managed to micro his wards into a deny.
Well played. That was a lot of resources from Alliance just to get a T1 tower that was denied. Like they were seeing all 4 or 5 heroes of their team out there. Meanwhile, Quake was farming up top. Feels like NiP not going to be really too thrown off by that one. They were kind of inevitably going to lose that tower regardless. So for Alliance, it does feel like they need to keep and maintain this amount of pressure. I think at some point they're going to want to prioritize a Blink Dagger of their own on Hanskin just to make it a little bit easier for those invest bombs, because it does feel like you don't necessarily want your Earth Spirit rolling in to start off a fight. That's pretty unreliable, and it also means the Earth Spirit most likely is dying very early on, so throwing away his life, not necessarily the best case scenario. The Blink allows him to have that more guaranteed initiation, perhaps to position himself such that he doesn't have to die when he initiates.
Yeah, this NiP is getting more and more mobile, too, so that Rolling Boulder is going to become less and less reliable as a form of initiation. You got the Blink Dagger coming up in Cinderin, but it's also Era who's going to go for a Force Staff. Seems to me a pretty clear choice against a Lifestealer, and then there's Qualifiers movement speed as well that you're going to have to contend with.
Yeah, being able to kite lifesteal around seems very important in this game. But for now, Loda maintaining his high farm, and this is where I like the adjustment from the previous game where it's like, all right, Loda's on this carry, he's not really keeping up in farm. Let's get him something that can scale a little bit better than the Chaos Knight. And also like farm at a slightly better rate because you've got that sustain with the feast. But also he went into this build where it's like, all right, I'm going to go to the Midas, I'm going to go a bit greedier, but at the same time I can fight, and then when I'm not fighting, I'm right back to farming. He's got a Desolator, and this is where Alliance can really start pressuring objectives. I imagine they'll be looking for maybe some smoke plays, look for a Roshan fairly soon, and try and take not just a couple tier 1s, but try and take some of these tier 2s.
Era's actually going to switch it up on us. He went from Force Staff in his queue to now a Blink Dagger. So thinking that with Synderen's Blink, they can make some quick connections, real fast kill, jump in, Corrosive Haze Crush, get him down to half health, and then Era can do the rest. But Alliance, they're going to go for their first big aggressive maneuver after quite some time. It would seem the right time to do it, right? With a fresh Desolator on Loda, you've hit a pretty good power spike.
Yeah, I think this is the time to try and make a go at NiP. They've got these couple of Midas. You also know that Qualifier isn't really... he's got a Maelstrom, so he does fight and right-click pretty hard right now, but if you can get on top of him with the Earth Spirit or the Lifesteal, you're able to easily find those kills. But it's going to be a smoke into Roche for now. I feel like this is not what most teams are doing. Like, typically, if you reach one of your peaks, you'd rather go for the smoke into kill and then take Roche as, like, the prize for winning a fight. And you do expose yourself a bit by being in the pit.
They are going to be able to take Roshan in time before Synderen can be there. Synderen actually not even throwing out the Crush, tries to back himself away, but it gets hit by the kick from Hanskin. They get 2, now a third. Hani goes for the Shallow Grave TP out, but he's still hit by the Assassinate. That mini stun will stop him from TPing out, and there was also the swap from EGM available. So either way, he wasn't making out a line. They do have a bunch of poison on Alliance. 2 supports will back up, but it seems like the cores are going to keep marching forward.
Yeah, not all of NiP going there. I was kind of questioning the Alliance there, like, all right, is this really the play? Like, you're a bit exposed, but they killed it easily fast enough so that it was a very safe play to go for, and NiP give them some extra kills. Like, they quote-unquote contest it, but they were doing so with really just, like, 3 heroes there. Venom was, like, suicidally running in to just get off an ultimate, which is, I mean, sometimes the play as a Venom, like, if the rest of your team is there and they're going to clean up, but Qualifier, he didn't really have any interest in fighting it. Era was kind of off trying to do his own thing as well, so it just didn't feel like NiP were all on the same page.
And I think NiP, they can't really afford those kind of mistakes because of this multiple Midas builds. Again, the Venomancer is probably the norm, but the one on Era and now the Blink Dagger, it means their lineup is actually very susceptible to initiation, which was formerly a problem for Alliance, but as we can see here, if they manage to get a jump onto, for example, Era, he doesn't have a Force Staff to protect himself. They take away that Blink Dagger option. They beat him apart. Even if he does get off the Growth Shroud, they have a decent amount of magic damage to be able to counter him. NiP are in a very precarious position in this 20 to 25 minute, even 30 minute window where Alliance can get a lot accomplished, and those Hand of Midases aren't going to work and allow NiP to be able to keep up if they're dropping objectives and kills.
Yeah, it definitely felt like Alliance are kind of lacking reliable initiation, but NiP's lineup, to initiate, they have to like run. Like, you don't have to have initiation when your opponents have to run into you. Venomancer needs to get in close to get an ulti off. Similar for Necro, he needs to get in close to use his spells. So you're versing a lineup that naturally is going to get close to you if they want to fight. The exception is maybe Trixie with the Plague Ward spam to defend towers, but as we've kind of seen, that does not help against the Sniper. And now Loda, with a couple more items, can still at least chip away at these towers through the Rage. Doesn't have the best survivability with the Deso Basher build, which means he does have to be a bit careful about taking too much damage.
Trixie, pull that tornado away from Synderen. Synderen does not want to be stuck in the trees without his Blink Dagger. That would be disastrous.
Yeah.
Looks like they're not going to go for the initiation and defend this offlane tower, and I think that's for the best. The tier 2 offlane tower is kind of impossible to defend at times.
Yeah. Sniper's just getting a bit too farmed, and he has the Aegis as well. Loda can instantly delete a hero with his itemization currently, so correct call from NiP, but they're still in the back foot here. These Midases to me just have not really paid off. This is probably one of the slower paced game I've seen out of like a team who's picking Necrophos. I feel like most teams who are running this hero are getting a lot more active and fighting a lot more rather than trying to play this farm oriented style.
Yeah. We're going to see NiP try and get aggressive for one of the first times here. 4-man smoke up while Trixie covers the lanes with wards. Yonosumfan has managed to somehow dodge this rotation from NiP. Has played the whole entire circle here, and NiP have tried to trace his every step. Now he's with the rest of the team, and this becomes a whole lot harder for Alliance. Or, excuse me, for NiP.
I don't think NiP can easily fight this one. They need to burst down a key hero to start it off with the Blink Crush. Trixie gets the courier. Small victory there. Now they want to win this big team fight victory, but ooh, Jonas goes for the vacuum onto the cliff. Doesn't land it though.
Trixie daring Alliance to go onto him, but it's actually going to be the roll in onto Hani. That is real bad. Koifa is going to have to feel some pressure coming in from behind. He's going to go for EGM first. They do manage to get the Veno slow, but now Koifa is going to be backdoored by Loda and Hanskin as a duo. Cinderin going to be jumped on as well. Limp gets a little bit more Ion Shell damage. Now the Urn stopping that Blink Dagger with this Assassinate to finish him off. Looks like Alliance will come out ahead unless Eric can turn this around. He managed to get the kill onto Limp, but that's still just the Aegis. So NiP are actually going to lose 3 there, only getting the Vengeful Spirit and Sniper's Aegis.
Yeah, this likely will lead to that last outer tower and open up access to these shrines if Alliance wants to take them out. They'll be playing without the Aegis now, so perhaps they'll just play more of the map control game, wait for NiP to move out. I mean, that was NiP moved out very deep on the map, and like once they didn't find the Darkseer neutraling and he regrouped up with his team, it was really just like an impossible fight to approach for NiP. They had the slider Blink, but they just aren't able to burst someone down really fast enough. Like you Blink Crush and Necro has a Blink as well, but between Necro and Slider, they don't do a whole lot of burst damage, so they can't kill like the core heroes like Darkseer or Lifestealer. The Sniper's got an Aegis. Perhaps at best they kill they got Avenge at the start of the fight, but even these supports, both EGM and Hanskin, fairly tanky, so makes life pretty difficult for the Slider Necro to initiate these fights, and that's where I feel like, I mean, you mentioned that the Blink, it seemed like the Force Staff was going to be the better option, because the Blink just doesn't seem to offer him that ability. Like, he blinks in with the Slider, but he doesn't actually have the ability to kill that first hero.
Yeah, it seems like NiP are trying to play with this Necrophos a lot, like this big damage over time AoE situation where ideally Necrophos picks up multiple kills, but as you said, most teams are playing differently with this Necrophos. They're playing a lot faster. They're also playing a lot more direct single target damage so they can get the quick Reaper Scythe in the beginning of the game, and this is something that NiP are really lacking. Early pushing power, early fast single target damage, and it's beginning to show as fight after fight does seem to be going the way of Alliance. Oh, a quick rage coming out there. Either way, Cinderin was donezo. He just blinked into full Alliance 4.
I was watching those 3 heroes smoke the bot. Well, 2 of them were smoked since the first smoke had been popped. I was like, they don't realize Alliance have 5 here. They do not want to fight. I think luckily for NiP, it was just Cinderin going in, and his teammates were like, we can't back you up. That's a Lifestealer. If there was a full concerted initiation there from those 3 NiP heroes, they would have all died. There was no escape for them. At best, they kill like a support again. Like, they didn't have the ability to ever kill Loda. And Alliance find themselves looking for another kill at top. They're going to get it too. Lone Druid this time. Caught out. Hanskin with the Loda Infest teeping into the shrine. Can't run from that one.
And that's the one hero we can't abide being lost for NiP. Like, everyone else can die, kind of. You know, it sucks if Era dies. He's the second most important, but it's really that Lone Druid that is the formidable high ground defense, that is the ultimate carry here for NiP, and is their late game hope, and him getting caught out like that means it's just going to prolong this dominance of Alliance in this mid game.
Yeah, it does feel like this game is going to be a struggle for NiP, and very much like you say, they are going for super late game. The Midases, the high ground defense is pretty solid. Like, you look at, and the Plague Wards don't seem like as big a deal at this point, at least not for the Sniper. For the Lifestealer, they're very annoying because they slow you when you try and chip at the tower, but the Lone Druid, of course, great at the high ground defending because of his range, and if anyone kind of ends up getting stuck on the high ground, Eric can finish them off with the Reaper. So high ground pushing will be difficult for Alliance, very much where they're likely waiting out for that next Aegis, and probably even more likely waiting off for like a key pickoff or something, because as it stands, they're not quite in that spot to breach the NiP high ground until they get a few more items or get a few key pickoffs.
Trixie, push, push, push. He's got a Yules, he's got a Blink. If they go on him, he has a chance to be able to escape, but Alliance are not even risking that that chase down the rabbit hole of trying to get the Trixie Venomancer. It's not even a worthwhile kill. They're going to leave him to it for now. TP1 back, but they're trying to maintain more aggressive posturing on the NiP side of the map and not give these other cores of NiP space to farm.
Yeah, Alliance is kind of just playing the pressure game right now. They want to pressure out, push a lane, and they know that the response from NiP to this is going to be split push. So once they see that split push, they're trying to get pickoffs. That time around, it doesn't work, but they do pressure top, then TP back to try and catch the hero split pushing, and just keep on doing this until there's a Rosh available is likely going to be the call. That Rosh is going to respawn fairly soon, so the one worry is if someone gets picked off. I mean, I don't see Loda dying down here. There's 2 heroes, and yeah, Hanny's like, yeah, I'm out of here now. This isn't working.
I was about to say, I saw that ping on Lifesteal. It's like, what are you pinging a Lifestealer for? What are you going to do? Threaten him with your magic damage? That's not going to be a thing, so... Hey, back away.
I really like the Lincoln's pickup, too, from Loda. There's only, there's 2 major spells that blocks in the Corrosive Haze and the Reaper's Scythe, and both are great to block. Like, it sounds like not amazing to block Corrosive Haze, but I think with how fast these team fights could be over, or the idea is that when you Blink Crush a Lifestealer, you want to burst him down with a Lone Druid right click, stopping that Corrosive Haze makes a big difference. And then later on, like, the Reaper, it can be a great spell block as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The Trixie Venomancer pops back out of his hole that he was hiding in. He cuts another creep wave. Alliance are beginning to center up on Roshan. Something that NiP, it was disastrous last time they tried to contest, and it was only half committal. Anyway, I think this time it's going to be no committal.
Every piece of the Alliance puzzle being put together now for that high ground push. Jonas has the full defensive teamfight utility build with the pipe, the Crimson Guard, and the mech. All he's missing is the Greaves, which he's about to upgrade to, so they'll have the Aegis now to go with this. They've got a Glimmer Cape on EGM. Like, they're basically itemizing to be as strong as possible at this 30-minute mark.
Sindrain almost gets caught out by a fishing vacuum there from Jonas Fan. He was just a little bit too far south. There's also a different item choice here. Instead of the full Mjolnir, it looks like Limp is thinking about going for a Scotty, a tankier and a later game stat build.
Better against the Lone Druid in some ways. I mean, you can really deal with the Spirit Bear very well. Not that the Spirit Bear is necessarily going to be an issue, but not the build I would have necessarily expected this game out of the Sniper. I don't think it makes too big of a difference. I'm looking at like the Sniper's job, and a lot of it is just to right-click and siege down these towers with Loda, so we'll see him look to continue doing that. The Spirit Bear caught out, Alliance making sure they catch it, trying to drag the creep wave away, and we'll force a resummon.
If Huntskin didn't know before, he knows now. Rolling Boulder will go right through that Spirit Bear. Yeah. Era's trying to go on the tier 3 here, see if he can threaten and force anybody from Alliance back before this fight happens, but Alliance aren't taking the bait.
There was actually the roll earlier at mid lane where he rolled through the Spirit Bear to hit the Lone Druid and get the kill, so it's one of the nice things for Earth Spirit to be able to bypass.
Uh-oh. Trixie. Not going to be hit by the Assassinate here from
Hera's got a tier 3 tower. And will he pay for it with his life, though?
They're trying. They will be able to close that distance, get the silence out. Era, his Ghost Shroud is only going to last so long. He's going to try and TP out, but Assassinate is there. Limp TP'd onto the Shrine. They're going to try and push out and catch whatever they can from the Alliance heroes that were up at top, but none of them linger for long. Sindarin is unable to find a kill there, and NiP's split push, well, it's successful at getting the tier 3 tower. They do still lose a very important core.
Yeah, it's the right idea and approach. I think they're in a very heavily disadvantageous position right now, so they've got to come up with plays like that. And if they'd caught the heroes up top, it would have been fantastic, and they still might. EGM has a gem. He does not want to die up here, and that's where I felt like they were really making a big effort to jump and catch him. But
what's going on here? Alliance, they think they got mega kill power here with Darkseer and Vengeful Spirit, and they may be right. Lifestealer's making his way over. Assassinate, and yeah, they'll get him.
They were all regrouping up there, so for a little while EGM was exposed and potentially in a rough spot, but it was quickly remedied. But once again, the split push already threatening bottom, and this bottom lane is much closer to the high ground than the Alliance one at top, so this will have to be addressed. Perhaps Hanskin can just show himself down here to scare Koikba off, but yeah, it's actually going to be a loaded TP. So that will further delay this push. Aegis timer down below 2 minutes, so Alliance probably getting a little frustrated. They feel like they can end the game, but NiP are just buying time, delaying it through this constant split push.
Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder with the Lifestealer at bottom lane if they're not going to be able to make use of this Aegis at all. Just because you don't want to have that risky scenario where, say, a minute from now, they are in a decent position with their laning phase and they can't go high ground. You don't want to risk losing your Aegis in the middle of a high ground push. Yeah. So NiP might have successfully stalled this enough. We'll see. They're going to start going for mid lane. That'll be the faster push. Maybe they can still make use of this extra life.
Man, the most annoying thing about the split pushing Lone Druid now is this minus 50 seconds respawn time. It is so fucking infuriating. You're like, we finally caught that Lone Druid split pushing. Now let's go push down mid, 5-man down mid. And by the time you reach the high ground, 30 seconds later, oh, he's back alive.
Yeah, I think it's level 20. He's like got a 25-second death timer or something. I think you were saying it. I think it was earlier. Somebody, maybe it was in or party queue or something. Somebody was like, you don't want to level anymore as Lone Druid. You hit level 20, you kind of just want to stay there. Yeah, there's that level 25 talent and everything, but level 21 through 24 actually just increase your death timer. So you'd rather just be, as low level as possible from here on out.
Well, Alliance now feel like they've got this small window with Aegis, so they're on the high ground. The split push at bottom is not a big threat, so this will be, looks like an uncontested Rax.
Yeah, NiP. They kind of jump out. Trixie's been silenced, pulled back there. Looks like they're going to try and get him before he can pop his ultimate, or at least be out of range. They do get the Shallow Grave. Shrine and Assassinate is not going to be enough. He will get enough of the heal.
They may get Rax at bottom.
Yeah,
Qualifier already down there. He's on the melee Rax.
Lip is keeping all these Blink Daggers back. TPs are coming back. The melee Rax. Oh, no, you're out of range. Go back in, Qualifier. He's going to be able to get it. Synderen jumped out. All right, he's got it. TP out. Hanskin, Assassinate, is going to be able to make that mini stun. He's going to try and juke out, but he does have the Yule Scepter. Back over to top lane. Do they catch anything? Loda, he's not going to be able to TP away. Doesn't even have one. They do manage to get the stun onto him. Era has the Reaper Sight. They're drawing closer and closer. Loda just cannot be allowed to heal up here, and it looks like they got him dead to rights. Now Koifa, he's going to burn out from the urn. There it goes. And that just leaves EGN as the final fish to be caught. 100 seconds on the Lifestealer. That's not bad. Honestly, they lose Koifa. He's going to be back up very soon. Loda does not have a buyback. Even though they lost a lane of Rax, they got melee. They bought themselves a crap ton of time. I don't know. That's pretty decent for NiP.
Oh, can you hear me, Kat?
Yeah.
All right, I just lost connection quickly. Yeah.
I was like, there was a slight pause. I was like, oh, gods must be God.
I didn't hear. I completely disconnected from Discord during that fight, but I'm back now. That worked out quite well for NiP. They got a melee Rax. They got a Lifestealer kill, a Reaper kill on him. I mean, this is how they got to play this game. That dirty split push from Koikva. He baits the TPs back, and then as soon as those TPs start rolling in, Synderen goes charging forward. He goes looking for whatever he can find to catch the stragglers, and he finds a big straggler in the Lifestealer. So, pretty damn good result, all things considered.
Yeah. I'm glad you and I agree on just that. Even without Discord, we still are of one mind, gods. We've got some damage coming in as well. We've got Dagon finished up for Necrophos. He opts for just level 2 Dagon, though he could buy more because he wants to keep that buyback. And we also have the Ags on Trixie. The next team fight, even though it's just, minutes apart from the last one, is going to be a world of difference potentially for NiP. They might actually have the power to stop Alliance in their next 5-man push.
Have the Midas has finally paid off. It may be the case. I was so worried for them. As far as are these Midases really play? But it does finally feel like they've been able to delay the pushes enough. And I mean, the push finally came was a Rax trade, so that wasn't even really. That's not even saying them behind. I mean, the range Rax is a non-issue at this point, so it's effectively an even game on buildings, a less even game on net worth. It's still a very big lead for Alliance. A lot of that coming from the supports, but Lifestealer Sniper still are ahead of their counterparts. And Quake's newly picked up Butterfly is going to be a annoying item to deal with. Loda doesn't have an MKB. No MKB inside as well. Sniper is going to start building one though.
Think you wait out that MKB? Think you wait out second Aegis and all that for Alliance? Because it's got to be dangerous, right? NiP had just picked up some fresh items, But if you don't go now, they're going to pick even better items up in a few minutes.
Looks like right now they just want to push down this bottom lane, and that's, yeah, without that next Rosh, it is respawning in the next minute or so, but I think more than anything you want to try and regain some map control, use this. Did they lose the gem in that fight? They did, so they can't actually easily like deward their jungle and stuff and maintain control around that Rosh area. The gem has been picked up by Synderen now, so that makes this game a little bit harder at this stage because of that vision factor.
Synderen also bumps into Jonas Safan. He's like, oh, that's not where I want to be, especially with this gem. He's going to get out. TPs actually will be canceled here. This NiP maintaining about 50% of this map. It's pretty good. Just more time for them to farm up. Alliance currently waiting on Roshan. Throw a shrapnel inside. It will be up in 15 seconds. This shrapnel, I think, might wear out. They've got Cardi, though. Trixie continuing to push at bottom. Thinking about a Ghost Scepter, but also has to keep buyback in mind. Loda will be the one sitting inside the pit. Sees Roshan respawn nice and early, just the way that Alliance want it. A later Roshan could actually be disastrous for Alliance here. I'm gonna give Gods a good old call on Skype. That infernal program. See if that'll work out a little bit better. Are you there, Gods?
Yeah, hopefully this will work better for now.
Alright, so here comes the push. Lions have that Aegis in hand, not waiting out the MKB for Limp. He does have buyback even if he dies out twice in this next fight.
I like the change where they put it on the Aegis on the Limp this time too, knowing that he's perhaps the more vulnerable one, and he's the one who's going to be hitting the buildings.
I got you back in Discord. You're double speaking to me. All right, I muted Discord. That was fantastic.
My bad. I'll mute as well, just to be doubly sure. But yeah, been trying to reconnect for like the last 30 seconds.
Oh man, that was great.
Classic tech issues.
What is it? Did Era pick up something recently? I feel like he's been sitting on the same 2,000 gold.
Got the Travels, I believe.
Oh, that's what
the
it
Shivers
is,
a new pickup? I don't think he had the Shivers for a while. He upgraded to Travels from the Treads.
That's what it was.
I like that idea where he can be a bit more like globally mobile. Like if Lone Druid's split pushing bottom and there's like a 2 or 3 man gank coming his way, he could potentially TP in to help him out. But timer is on now. The Aegis, it feels like Alliance need to get another lane of Rax and not a Rax trade during this window, because even though they're out farming NiP, it just doesn't feel like the Lifestealer is going to be able to scale too much into the late game with getting kited around.
Speed is of the essence here. Limp is going to be jumped on here. Trixie, Yule Scepter, nice 2-man crush out there. They get a little bit of an exit. The swap back onto Synderen. That looks like that should be a pickoff with a shallow grave there. Synderen, his life is going to be at the cost, though, of a tier 2 tower at top lane, and Qualifier rather quickly barreling down that top lane, going for the melee racks. But we'll see the jump in here from Trixie, coating everybody in with that poison. It's an Aghanim's upgrade as well. So Alliance are going to be feeling this burn in the next few seconds. See if NiP can actually do much. They're trying to buy back, trying to stop anything. These melee racks are going down, or at least catch somebody on the way out, because Qualifier is beginning to work on that one. Nice vacuum. Oh, there goes the Reaper Sight, but it's not enough. Now the cheese being eaten up, and Era, he's silenced up. He's going to lose his life unless the Shallow Grave can save him. They need a little bit more heals coming out with the Assassinate. Oh, not quite enough to finish him up, but Hanskin will claim the kill. Trixie also going down. That's a buyback down. Qualifier was forced away from that top lane push unsuccessfully, going for that tier 3 tower. He's here now, but they've lost the mid lane of Rax, and Gods, you said they needed that badly. Alliance will get the mid lane without trading.
And they still have the Aegis for another 2 minutes, so they can even go for their mega creeps at this stage. So really well played push. I don't mind what NiP did, where they were like throwing away their lives on the Venom and the Slaughter if they get that top lane of Rax, but they didn't get it.
Him getting caught earlier was fine. He can't get caught here. All these heroes do not have buyback.
The Boulder Smash didn't land, so they don't get that kill. But yeah, Qualifier top, he didn't really do all that much damage to the tier 3 tower. He actually lost his bear to the tower. It was very low HP to begin with, but losing the Spirit Bear means you lose a decent amount of pushing power, and he just decided, I guess his team called him to TP back thinking they could win the fight, which is where Era's Reaper, if that had actually worked out for them, would have been the way for them to win the fight. But being called back to fight and then not getting those kills and losing your racks meant a very, very big problem for NiP, who now find themselves having to defend their last lane of racks. You can't go for the trade here. You have to defend from this last lane of racks. Synderen's trying to use this trees to act as a good initiation point. But, oh, he's going to scout the smoke.
The smoke gets popped.
Blink out.
Alliance. Can they actually... Oh, it starts blinking away. Hanskin actually almost blinks into him, rolls upwards, thinking that Synderen had backed away, but Synderen just goes deeper into position. Don't get caught now, though. Oh, rage creep. He spotted him. Sniper the snipey. He's got him. Synderen starts force-staffing himself away. Has a blink up in a second, but the Yule stops him first. Now the roll-in. Hanskin's going to be able to catch Synderen, slow him down a little bit more, but the rest of the team keeps pushing forward. Era, he's been gone on here. He's actually down. Trixie gets his initiation with all that. Koifa now has to come in big time with the poison, taking away these heroes. Ghost Scepter out from Trixie. Buys a little bit more time, but the swap back onto Koifa. He's in trouble. Turns, kills EGM. The Shallow Grave, buying him a little bit more time. The Assassinate. The Shrine. It keeps him alive. Again, the Shrine saving them from these killer assassinations from Alliance, but Alliance still at a big numbers advantage. They've taken down 2 of NiP, one being Synderen, one being Era. Both sides of Alliance came out on top in that engagement, and Trixie no longer has his poison. He came in, poisoned up Limp, but Limp just goes ahead and takes out the Dazzle. Koifa moves forward, but now get caught by the vacuum. Now the wall as well. Koifa being chased back to the base while the rest of the allies just focus on the buildings. Loda and Yoda Samfan, they're going to take that melee racks, make it megas, and NiP, they want to try and finish this up in a 2-0. They're going to have to fight through mega creeps and against an incredibly farmed Alliance crew. Limp getting that extra surge movement speed. A Yule Scepter to himself, but there's the call. Koifa, I think they know it's over. They had a very, very narrow path to victory this whole entire time. They had to fight for late game. It just wasn't enough.
A much better played game by Alliance. Loda really had a great showing on the lifesteal. They were able to pressure the lanes a lot better, and it felt like NiP just gave Alliance a lot of space this game, going for the double Midases. The Venomancer was annoying and pesky at times, but ultimately NiP didn't really do much with the space other than try and farm. Like, at no point did it really feel like they were threatening to take fights to Alliance or really do any significant damage to the Radiant side of the map. It was just giving Alliance room to maneuver, to take towers, to take objectives, and to kind of reach these critical items where Darkseer had all the teamfight utility, Lifesteal had the right-click damage, and Sniper had everything he needed as well.
Alliance evening up the series 1-1. Dominant victory by them, just like NiP had a dominant victory in game number 1. We'll have a break and be back with the conclusion of this series just a bit.